So I want to talk a little bit about map-to-map travel in Escape from Tarkov, how it's going to work. I have a couple of theories on how it's going to work. One's a little bit more realistic, but a little bit more disappointing, and the other one is not realistic at all in my opinion, but that's how I would prefer it happen, to be completely honest. Anyway, this is the moment in the video where I annoy you and ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. It really does help out the channel, and if you enjoy content like this, well, that's all we do. I like to talk. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about map-to-map travel. So if you have been around long enough with Escape from Tarkov, like I have, you will remember that map-to-map travel wasn't the initial plan. Neither were raids. We were supposed to get an open world escape from Tarkov. We were supposed to be able to seamlessly travel from one map on the game to the other in a DayZ scenario. We could just walk there. I don't know what happened along the way. I guess it's their spaghetti code, but now we're ending up with map-to-map travel, as was confirmed by Nikita in the latest interview with Pestily. It's unfortunate, but it's more realistic, and it won't blow our computers up when we try to fucking play the game, I guess. But how in the hell is that going to work? Tarkov was also supposed to be a browser game, so admittedly, from Nikita himself, the game has spaghetti code. It's hard to work with. There's a lot of errors in the code going years back that they're still trying to fix to this day. So it's not very well optimized due to that reason. So how in God's name do they make map-to-map travel a real thing where multiple different people are on multiple different maps at the same time, and everything else that goes into just that detail? Well, I have a theory, and we'll start with the unrealistic one first. Obviously, the unrealistic theory is that we have servers. It's a server-based persistent world along the lines of Gray Zone that we're not allowed to choose. We pick our nearest server, US East, US West, wherever we're at. We load into that. We have the possibility of loading into the same server, but obviously that's not always a guarantee, and we load in with 40 to 50 to 60 other players, and we can halfway seamlessly with small cutscenes travel from one map to another map via the specific extracts like Road to Customs on Shoreline, Path to Lighthouse, the Reserve Dome. I'm pretty sure that's an extract on Shoreline, and so many other ones that are obviously connected from one map to another, as by the name of the extract. I'm just blanking on it right now. That is unrealistic in my opinion. It's obviously what I want because it's the closest thing we're going to have to open world, but it's unrealistic because then you would have 40 to 50 players spread between all of the different maps on the game. So let's say 6 players on Lighthouse, 6 players in Streets, 10 players on Shoreline, 15 players on Customs, 5 players on Factory, and 8 players on Woods, right? I don't know how many players that is. I might have went over my limit, I might way under, but either way, we're going to have all of those players at different spots on each map, and having the server have to load all of the different instances of loot for each specific player in each different location. We're having to have AI being loaded in for each of those players as well. Bosses, rogues, cultists, whatever else. It's unrealistic because the game can barely handle what it does now, especially on Streaks, and at that point you're taking Streaks and multiplying it by what, 12 to 15? I just think it's entirely unrealistic, but I do have a theory on how they could possibly manage to do it. Now obviously this is all theory crafting. I don't have any groundbreaking insider information. I'm not a game developer. This is theory crafting based on the little bit of knowledge that I have, obviously. So we move into the more realistic way we can have map-to-map travel in Tarkov without our computers being able to cook spaghetti or exploding on our desks. So the way that I think they could realistically do map-to-map travel and Escape from Tarkov and have it work moderately seamlessly and have it be enjoyable and still immersive, in my opinion, is to group the different maps into sections. So what do I mean? Well, I mean you take Factory, Customs, and Woods, and that is a server. And then you take Lighthouse, Reserve, and Shoreline, and that is a server. You take Streets, Ground Zero, and Labs, and that is a server, and I'm sure I'm missing a map. I'm just stupid and do not remember it right now. So you take those maps, split them up, put them on their own servers. Now obviously you're going to have a lot of servers to do this, because you're going to have a lot of different people wanting to play a lot of different maps in a lot of different regions. So a lot of servers. But how would it work from a gameplay aspect? So let's say that I want to play on Customs, Woods, and Factory, and I want to come in on Customs based on, you know, wherever we spawn, whether we can choose what city we spawn in, what map we spawn in. Let's say I have that option and I choose to spawn on Customs. So I spawn into Customs and I work my way through Customs, loot, make my way through Factory, loot, make my way to Woods, and loot. Decide to wrap all the way back around to Customs because I forgot the extract names in the game, and I get to Customs and I decide to take the Shoreline extract. Now keep in mind, I was able to travel from Customs to Factory to Woods in a moderately seamless short cutscene type deal. How they would implement that, I do not know, but let's say I was able to do that. Let's say they're able to manage that. So I make my way back to Customs, I take that Shoreline extract, and then I get a longer cutscene, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, while it switches my server. So it takes me from the Customs, the Woods, and the Factory server, and it switches me over to the Shoreline, Lighthouse, and Reserve server, where I've joined into an open slot in a server with multiple players running around, and I come in through that specific extract, and I'm now server hopped, and I can seamlessly move between Shoreline, Reserve, and Lighthouse the same way that I did Factory, Customs, and Woods. I think that is the most realistic way they could do it. In my mind, it's obviously going to be more expensive because that means more servers, but at least that doesn't mean computers are blowing up, in my opinion. I don't know. Even at that point, I don't know how exactly they're going to be able to manage that, because even with a 3-map split, and I think a 3-map split is the only way they'll be able to do it and justify doing it. If they're only going to do 2 maps, in my opinion, just leave it with the raid-based system, right? Like, we need to have a little bit bigger of a variety there if you're going to implement map-to-map travel. And I feel like if they can't manage it with 3, just don't do it at all. But as I was saying, it's still going to be very difficult because they still have to take all of the loot on those split servers, all of the AI, bosses, rogues, scavs, cultists, all of the gold loot, the loose loot, the containers that spawn in different locations now. For each different player on each different section of the map, having that AI and that loot loaded in for 3 different maps at a time, just persistently. And it has to be persistent. It has to be to where I can travel from Customs to Factory, and I can find Factory looted, and I can find dead scavs, and I can find dead PMCs. That's how it makes sense to me. But then we get to the problem of, well, where is our hideout at? Are we going to have a hideout on each split 3 section of the maps, right? So am I going to have a hideout on Factory, Woods, and Customs? Am I going to have a hideout on Shoreline, Reserve, and Lighthouse as well? And that's the same with Ground Zero, Streets, and Labs. Am I going to have a hideout per 3 map split? Am I going to have a hideout there, or am I literally going to have to change servers in the aspect of going from Shoreline to Customs to actually get to my lighthouse? There's not my lighthouse, Jesus, my hideout. There's so many questions that go into it, but they have to have an idea of what they're already doing if Nikita mentioned it, and if in-game traders are as far along as they are, as we've seen Mechanics Workshop pretty much fully rendered in Tarkov. I don't think that was art. It doesn't look like art to me. It looks like a full render in game. So they're close. They have to be close. So it begs a lot of questions. I'm very curious. I can't wait to see how they do it. But what I'm more curious about is what you guys think about this. How do you think they're going to do this map-to-map travel system? Do you think I'm talking out of my ass? Do you think I'm onto something? Do you have a different theory? Let me know in the comments down below. I have to apologize for my voice. I'm getting sick. My daughter's been sick for days at this point. An ER visit and a pediatric visit. It's been miserable, and now I have it. So apologies for the deep, growly voice. Anyway, thank you dudes so much for watching. I really appreciate it. My name is Tootin. I've been your host, and I will see you dudes next time. Peace out.